Hi everyone, welcome to the first ever Diskohollywood podcast. In our first show, this is going to be a test to see where we can go with this. This one's going to be an entertainment heavy show, so this may branch off to its own podcast in the future. We'll have to wait and see. But please comment below and give us your feedback. Please subscribe so you'll be able to see what's next as soon as it hits. Okay, on with this week's show. This is Art.
And this is Mitch.
And this week is Shark Week.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Very exciting.
So our theme for the week is going to be sharks, and actually we're going to focus on Jaws.
Excellent.
1975 motion picture, Steven Spielberg director. 40 years this year. Actually, last week, 40th anniversary.
That is a long time if you think about it.
Yeah, that was like the first ever summer blockbuster must-see movie. That's kind of cool.
And you think about it, and you remember it from your childhood, and it came out well before our childhood.
Yeah, exactly. We're not that old. But Spielberg was huge during our childhood, and this was like the movie that catapulted him. That got him on that track to make things like Close Encounters, which I think came out the following year, if I'm not mistaken. Then E.T., Raiders, all that good stuff. But this was the big one. The only full-length movie he made before this was Sugarland Express with Goldie Hawn. Fairly popular. I think John Williams did the soundtrack for that as well. But,
wow.
Yeah, that's the movie that gave him the ability to make a big summer blockbuster for Universal, but I don't think it was anywhere near the caliber of Jaws.
I had never heard of it until you just mentioned it.
Oh, there you go. That explains it.
But I have heard of Goldie Hawn and John Williams.
Yeah.
So.
The other thing he did before that was actually a TV movie called Duel. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
So it was really cool. It was. Did you ever see the movie Tire? The newer, like it's on Netflix.
I haven't. I have it marked to watch.
So that's a movie about a tire that basically terrorizes
yes.
people.
Very exciting.
Duel kind of had the same premise in a weird way, but like there's a guy and he was being chased by a big rig, an 18-wheeler. And you never see the driver, and the enemy, the villain, isn't the driver, it's the rig. And the whole movie's about him trying to avoid this. And it's been redone in several TV shows and cartoons. I think Family Guy may have done it. I know Bob's Burger did it for a Christmas episode not too long ago.
And wasn't
chased by a candy cane truck.
Wasn't that one movie with like Kevin Bacon where like all the machines started terrorizing?
What
like it was
that?
I don't know, it was a big rig with a clown. There was a clown face on the front of it. I can't remember. No, it basically looked like the Twisted Metal thing now that you bring it up. Totally Maximum Overdrive or something?
That sounds like a movie. I'm okay with that. Yeah, so that was the first movie that he did that had a lot of special effects and things. Actually, a fun fact on that. Spoiler alert, at the end, the rig goes off a cliff. The sound effect that he used for that movie got recycled. It's the same sound they used at the end of Jaws when the shark's going down. So, all about the recycling in the 70s.
Hell yeah.
So it was based on a book by Peter Benchley, I think his name there.
Books.
And he wrote the book based on a story that he read about some guy named Frank Mundus, I believe is how you say his name. He was out fishing. He caught a shark that weighed 4,500 pounds, and I believe to now it's still on record as the largest fish ever caught with rod and reel. So without like all the fancy trawling gear and stuff.
Did he catch it by himself?
As far as I know, yeah. I saw a picture of it, and there were other folks around, but I'm sure somebody helped him, pull him back because that's a pretty big fish.
That is huge.
Yeah.
That's like two cars.
I believe it was a great white. I don't know if that was the largest great white. I doubt it was the largest great white ever seen. But the largest great white's about 20 feet long. I don't think this would be that long. But pretty damn impressive. So Peter Benchley wrote this book. Kind of was just becoming popular. It wasn't part of every American's vocabulary at the time. But it was starting. It was on the New York Times bestseller list. Spielberg actually saw the not the script, but the premise on a stack of script ideas at a studio, and he first thought it was a dentist movie, which was kind of funny. But he read it, he thought it was awesome, and he wanted to direct it. And like you said, he kind of considered it a sequel to Duel when he made that. So he kind of likes having movies where the villain isn't necessarily a person or has the thought process of a human.
Yeah. Or necessarily actually villainous, just not human friendly.
Yeah, exactly. So Jaws is famously known for having probably the most on-set issues of any movie ever. I mean, the logistics are insane. They made a full-size 25-foot, so 5 feet bigger than any other great white shark, mechanical shark they made. That was never done before. They filmed in the ocean. That was never done before. They filmed on location, Martha's Vineyard. That was never done before. In fact, no movie ever was allowed to be filmed in Martha's Vineyard. There was a lot of restrictions there, and they lifted those for Jaws.
Wow.
But the budget for the film originally was $3.5 million, which I think even in '75 that's a lot of money for a fairly unknown director to have.
Yeah.
Ended up running $9 million, so almost tripled. And that's a whole story in itself. In fact, there's a really good documentary out there called "The Shark's Still Working." It's about 2 hour long, really good documentary, and it goes in a lot of the finances and stuff of the movie. It's definitely worth watching. If I remember, I'll put a link to that in the comments below, or at least to Amazon where you can buy it. Also, shooting days supposed to be 55, so a little less than 2 months. Ended up running 159 days.
That's just about triple as well.
Yeah, almost 104 days over. And it's not like now where a director can he has backers and there's social media where people are like, I want that movie. I mean, they could have pulled the plug on that at any time because all they saw were the dailies, and a lot of time the dailies didn't have anything to show because the shark wasn't working, or the weather was bad, or there was a sailboat in the distance and they couldn't get the shot they wanted because as soon as the one sailboat went out of frame, another sailboat came into frame. You had to wait another 30 minutes for that to leave the frame. So, yeah, they could have pulled it any time, but they didn't, which was a good thing.
Yeah, that's like a lot of faith in a project, I would assume.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean,
I don't even think it was a lot of faith. I think it was kudos to the producers for pulling the strings in Hollywood and probably sneaking in scheming to keep it going.
Yeah, a lot of puppet master.
Yeah.
And it's funny because it's a movie that I'm pretty sure that book came out not too far before they started making the movie.
Yeah, it was just a few years. It was already on the New York Times bestseller list. I don't have the year in front of me. I want to say probably 80 or 72, 73 maybe.
Yeah, I remember that one fact is that the book was basically a new book at that point. I mean, a couple-year-old book is still considered new to a lot of people.
Actually, 1974. So yeah, a year before filming. But that's really that time frame was kind of common, I guess. Because look at Godfather. I believe that came out just a few years before Coppola made it. So I think that was the thing to do. Kind of now how we try and make movies that relate to pop culture. Novels were pop culture at that time. So,
yeah, I guess that was the main storytelling ways back then.
And I'm sure same thing with some of the Stephen King novels that turned into movies as well were probably fairly quick. But yeah, that's pretty wild that within a year they were already making the movie. So, back to on the set there. So we said Jaws was 25 feet long, so it's 5 feet longer than most. The largest great white was only 20 feet. So they had to make this giant mechanical shark, which they made in Hollywood. The gentleman that made it is actually the same guy that made the squid from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea for Disney, which was like 30 years earlier, maybe 25 years earlier. So like I had experience, but that squid was made to be in a soundstage in a pool of water that's probably like a foot deep. So now they have to build a shark that's full of hydraulics and all these moving parts, and it's got to float, and it's got to work in salt water in Martha's Vineyard, which isn't the calmest water. So they get it out there, and it doesn't work. In fact, it sinks. First time they put it in the water, it just sinks down to the bottom. So they basically had to re-envision the shark.
Huh. Jesus.
Yeah.
So is it still there? The sunken one?
No, they pulled it up and fixed
Oh,
it. There's
yeah.
I think there was 3 sharks total that they used. I think it was 3. One
That
of
would
which got blown up, and then the other 2. I'm not sure what ended up happening to them.
that would have been an awesome sunken treasure to find.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, they weren't built to last. They were pretty flimsy. Now there is part of the Orca, the ship, the boat that Quint has. They made 2 of those as well, and it actually is a totally different story. But one of them ended up going to Universal Hollywood, and it was part of the Tram, the backlot tour. As it goes through Amity, and they had a mechanical shark that comes out and stuff. This is the side story here, though. But Spielberg used to go out to that boat years after the movie, and that was kind of like his thinking spot, and it kind of reminded him of his first success and all this. And then one day he went out there, the boat was gone, and he was livid. And apparently they just decided that it was run down. I don't even think the people in the park knew it was the real Orca. They just scrapped it.
Oh,
Yeah,
jeez.
he was pissed, but he did manage to save, I believe, the wheel and maybe some of the other interior pieces, but mostly I think the wheel was the main thing he recovered. Not too happy about that. The second Orca was just beached on pretty much on a deserted shore over in Martha's Vineyard. You can still see it. There are signs though says it's private property, no trespassing, and it's been scrapped. A lot of people have taken pieces off, and the weather's definitely got to it, but it is still out there.
That's funny.
And again, that's in that documentary. You can see the video footage that somebody took going out there, so it'll save you from getting arrested if you ever try to go out there. So I don't know. Do you know the name of the shark?
Jaws.
Yeah.
Like everybody else would say.
Do you know the name that Steven Spielberg gave the mechanical shark? I'll be more specific.
Larry?
No, close. It's a very simple 5-letter name. Bruce.
Ah. So it looks like a Bruce.
Yeah, Bruce was Steven Spielberg's lawyer. Attorney.
Ah.
So they're sharks.
Well, nice. Nice smasheroonie over there.
Yeah.
Wasn't Bruce the name of the shark in...
So it was Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
I knew you had to go there. Where do you think they got that from?
Yeah, clearly.
Hollywood's all about throwbacks.
And if I didn't have nieces and nephews, I would have never seen Little Nemo.
That would have been your loss. That's a great movie.
Finding Nemo, not Little Nemo.
Finding Nemo, yes. Which I believe has the second one coming out next year, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Finding Dory. So the shark gave him tons of problems. Most of the time, everybody was just sitting around, waiting to hear a call on the radio. The
Feel like a
shark's
vacation.
working. The shark's working. Then everybody have to run real quick, get a shot in, and the shark would probably stop working after that. So yeah, it dragged out for 3 times as long as it was supposed to, which was a testament to the cast for sticking through all that.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you had some big names there. Now, some of them weren't big names when the movie was made, but some of them were pretty big. Starting with Quint, who's the old sea captain, which was Robert Shaw. Very famous actor, stage and screen up to that point. Kind of a pain in the ass from what I hear. But awesome actor.
A lot of old-timey people were like that.
Yeah. Yeah, they had, they're still around from the golden age, but he stuck it out and stuff, and it's kind of cool. Like, he tried to learn the New England Martha's Vineyard accent, and it was pretty bad, I guess, if you lived there. But he did a pretty good job of it, and he would do interviews with it, and he kind of ran with it. But he was a character actor, so that's what he would do. And we keep talking Martha's Vineyard. We should say that the town is Amity, not a real town. Amity is actually Martha's Vineyard. A lot of the people in the movie who were extras or had one line here and there, they were just residents of Martha's Vineyard, and a lot of them are still there.
Yeah.
In fact, one of my favorite guys, and we'll get to quotes here in a little bit, one of the locals who says, "A what?" when they're talking about the tiger shark. He's still there, and people just approach him every day of his life, and they're like, "Oh, what?"
I hope he's making money off that.
Yeah, I think he's got T-shirts and all that good stuff.
I hope so. America, man.
The woman that slaps Brody, the one who her son gets eaten, fairly early in the movie, Mrs. Kintner, she up to recently she finally stopped, but people would constantly ask her to slap them.
That's
Like,
gotta
they would
be.
be like, "Can you slap me?" And she's like, at this point, she's like, I had to stop because I'm old now. I don't want to keep
I was,
slapping people.
I was gonna say, how many slaps can you deliver until your hand just doesn't want to do it anymore?
Yeah. Well, everyone she gave to Rob Schneider, who played Captain, Captain Brody, was that was real. She couldn't throw a fake slap because she's not an actress. She didn't learn how to do that. So they weren't convincing enough. So she had to slap him for real, and they had to take quite a few takes to get it right. So yeah, she never pulls a punch.
Oh, she's doing it right.
Right. All right. So we had Quint as, or we had Robert Shaw, I should say, as Quint. Awesome role. Probably my favorite character.
Well, your favorite character
Next to Jaws.
was the one played by Robert Shaw?
Yeah, I think so.
Wasn't he in a Bond movie?
Let's find out. Look at it right now.
I think he was.
Do you think you know which one by chance?
Obviously one from like the 60s.
I'm looking at it right now.
I'm gonna guess it was the Robert Moore era.
I am not seeing it.
Oh wait, that's
Something wrong.
the 60s. Maybe that was Connery, wasn't it?
Yeah, that probably would have been Connery back then.
I'm thinking Connery then.
I'm not seeing it before Jaws. He may have done one after, but I didn't see one there. Now, one of my all-time favorite movies he was in, which is The Sting, 1973. Did you ever see that one with I can't think of his name right now. Salad dressing guy, Paul Newman. Awesome.
That's. Yep, the salad dressing guy. That's what he's doing.
He does a lot of good with that salad dressing. That money goes to he's got a charity for kids, so good for him and his salad dressing. But yeah, Paul Newman, Robert Redford, and Robert Shaw. Awesome movie. It's about pulling a con.
I think I have seen bits and pieces of never full thing.
So good.
I just looked it up, and Robert Shaw was in From Russia with Love.
Ah, there you go. Perfect.
He was the villain, one of the villains.
Nice. Yeah, when you have time, check out The Sting. We could do an episode on that because that movie's freaking awesome. Awesome guy movie. About pulling a long con on a dude. And the theme that they play throughout the whole movie is the Entertainer, the old piano vaudeville song. Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah. So in the movie in Jaws, the way they introduce Quint, I don't know if you remember, it's the whole scene where I think it's after that little boy's been killed, and they put the reward up, and the town's gathered, and they're trying to figure out how they're going to get this shark. What's the plan? I think they put, I believe the mom of the child put the reward up. I don't think the town had come up with a solution yet.
Yeah.
And they're all bickering how they're going to do it and how it's going to affect. Because it's summer, it's their season. This is when they make their money. And now they got a shark problem. And then all of a sudden you hear those nails going down the chalkboard. And that's how Quint gets introduced. Gives him his terms. Originally, they had a different way of introducing him, which never made the movie. He was going to be in the local movie house watching Moby Dick with, I believe it was Clark Gable was in that one. And it was just going to be him and a couple other people in the audience. He was going to be laughing his ass off by how unrealistic it is. And eventually, the other people would leave, and they were going to, cut out to the outside, and you would still hear him laughing from outside the theater. But like I said, I think it's Clark Gable. I might be wrong. They can correct me in the comments. But Clark Gable didn't want the clip in the movie because he believed it wasn't his finest role, and he didn't want people mocking it. So they had to go with the alternate way, which I think both ways are pretty good. Although it's kind of funny to introduce him as just like this asshole laughing in a theater, pissing off all the locals. But he does that later in the movie plenty of times, so it all worked out. Another main character is Brody, who was played by Roy Schneider. So that role, they had a lot of people in mind for that. And originally it was going to be Charleston Heston.
Interesting.
I don't know how that really would have played. I don't think it would have been as good. I think Roy Schneider really adds personality to the character, where Charleston Heston, again, you were talking about the old time, the golden age guys. It's all no nonsense with them.
Yeah.
But he was Spielberg wasn't sold on it. It was more of a studio thing. He was talking at a dinner party to some other people about it. Roy heard it, and he's like, "Hey, how about me for that role?" So he went with him. Charleston Heston was so pissed he refused to ever do a movie with Steven Spielberg.
Oh, wow.
He really wanted to do Jaws. Which I'm kind of glad he didn't, like I said, because I don't think he'd have the right charisma. Like, there's that whole scene where Brody and his son are sitting at the dining room table, and he's got his hands on his face, and then the son's like mimicking him, and they keep going back and forth, different things. That was all improv. Like, that wasn't part of the script. The kid was doing it on his own, and Schneider was like, Steven, look this, let's get this. So I don't think you would have that kind of stuff with Heston.
Probably not.
And then our third hero, I guess we'll call him, is Hooper, played by Richard Dreyfuss.
Hero.
A young, hairful Richard Dreyfuss.
Very young.
Yes.
As opposed to people who know who he is now.
Yeah, what would people the younger listeners know him from currently? I mean, he's in stuff all the time, but he hasn't had a huge production.
Constantly in stuff.
He was in Piranha 3D not too long ago.
Was he?
Yeah.
I always saw that in the theater.
That was all like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something.
That was a while ago.
Yeah. He's been doing a lot of TV stuff.
What about Bob?
Yeah, I don't know if the younger audience would know that.
But they played on TV.
80s. Yeah, that's true.
That might have been 90s.
That's probably my favorite role. What about Bob? Mr. Holland's Opus was a really good film of his, but again, that's mid-90s, I'd say. But yeah, he's been doing a lot of TV stuff lately, movies, appearing on TV shows. I think he even did some voices on Family Guy not too long ago. So, and he's got something in production. I think it's going to be on TV right now, but it's they're doing a Bernie Madoff movie, and he's playing Madoff.
Oh, nice.
Which, I mean, he can play an asshole cocksucker, and that's what Bernie Madoff definitely was. So.
Yeah, listen, he's been a good actor in everything he's done.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you even go back to the early days, I mean, he was in American Graffiti.
Mm-hmm.
He was in the Bewitched. I don't think one episode, but he was in Bewitched way back in like the late '60s. Very popular TV show at the time. So yeah, he's been around. But he didn't almost have his role either. Two people they were considering for that role: Jon Voight and Jeff Bridges.
Interesting.
Yeah, the dude almost was Matt Hopper.
I could see Jon Voight, but I could not see the dude.
Yeah. I don't even know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm glad they went with Dreyfuss. I think that was a good pick. However, Dreyfuss and Shaw, huge rivals all the way through the filming of the movie. It was more like Robert Shaw just knew how to get under people's skin really well. And Dreyfuss was perfect for that, and he would just constantly belittle him, call him a shitty actor, dare him to do things. Like, he would dare him to do, like, push-ups. Like, I bet you can't do 50 push-ups. And frickin' Dreyfuss was like, I can do it. So that was the whole movie, just those two just going at it, which is kind of funny.
Old school bullying.
Especially considering they had 3 times the amount of time to do it than they thought
They had a lot of time.
A lot of downtime. And then some of the minor cast members. There's the mayor, who was played by Mayor Vaughn. Larry, I believe his first name was. Murray Hamilton played him. Famous actor, famous character actor. He's in a lot of things. He comes back in Jaws 2. That's important to say because not a lot of people came back to Jaws 2. But he was in The Graduate, Hustler, a movie that he does with another actress from Jaws, 1941, which is a hilarious movie if you've ever seen it. I'm trying to think what year that came out. I want to say that was
1941.
You would think, but no. I believe it came out in the late 70s, maybe 79. But great comedy with Dan Aykroyd. John Belushi's in it. Christopher Lee is actually in it, who just passed away not too long ago. And Ned Beatty, he played. He was the guy that owned. You said you haven't seen it?
Which one?
1941.
No, I have not.
So it's about World War II. They're on the coast of California, and the army moves in. They're going to defend the coast, and they set up a big like anti-artillery or anti-aircraft gun in the front yard of Ned Beatty's character. And he's all excited about it. He wants to use it, all this stuff, and then they through weird circumstances, people think the Japanese are bombing Hollywood, and they're not. But and then John Belushi just has like classic role. Plays Captain Wild Bill Kelso, and he's just like a renegade pilot, just does his own thing. It's freaking awesome. But Ned Beatty's wife is Lorne Gary, and she is the wife of Brody in Jaws. And then Murray Hamilton's also in both movies, so a little crossover there. And 1941 also John Williams did the music for,
Of course.
and Steven Spielberg directed. So a lot of people are always like, "Oh, Wes Anderson always uses the same people in his movies." Well, he wasn't the first one.
I'm pretty sure they all do it. Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly. I think there's something to be said about that too. Like, when you have a good enough actor that it's familiar enough that you're like, oh, this is a person I enjoy, but they can change their character enough that it doesn't feel reused. Like Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks has kind of almost done the same movie several times, but nobody ever says anything. They're like, no, wait a minute. Like, You Got Mail and Sleepless in Seattle are the exact same movie.
Whoa, hey.
And almost,
Don't you dare.
Even, or you could say Terminal and Castaway are almost the same movie. It's a dude stranded somewhere. But he's America's Tom Hanks. He's good. He's allowed to do it. Or I don't know if you watch American Horror Story. Same thing. Most of the cast reprises their, comes back every season.
Yeah.
Whole new storyline, whole new characters, and they're so good at it that it doesn't like you're never like, oh, there's that bitch from that first season. No, it's like, oh, now she gets a clean start now because, it's a totally different character. Yeah, it's the same actor, but I don't see that actor anymore. I just see the character. So. Yeah, I think there's something to be said for doing that. It's just a level of like subconscious comfort. But as far as anybody in the movies that actually went through the whole Jaws, I can't say trilogy because there's 4 of them. What would be a term for that? Saga, the Jaws saga. Would be the wife, Brody. I always pronounce her name wrong. Lorne Gary? I'm saying it wrong.
I think that would be Lorraine.
Let's say Lorraine Gary. She was in 3 of the 4 of them. She was in 1, 2, and which is the equivalent of 4, which is Jaws Revenge. So she gets the most screen time, I think, of everybody.
Didn't the first 3 Jaws movies come out before you were born?
I'm not sure when Jaws 3 came out. Let me find out. It came out in... Oh, I'm looking that up. A fun fact, it was actually filmed at SeaWorld of Florida. All the park stuff.
The animal abuse?
I was born. 83 it came out. So
nice.
32 years ago. Yeah, so if you go to SeaWorld now, you can actually... A lot of it's changed over the years, but a lot of the same layout is still there as the park was in that movie.
If you go to SeaWorld now, you can abuse your very own animal.
Too soon.
Don't really do that. Not advocating animal abuse.
No. I think they do a good job. A lot of people are hating on SeaWorld right now. I think they do good. The other day, SeaWorld, they were moving some sharks. I think I read you this article. They were moving sharks from, I think, Isla Mirada down in the Keys, going up to the Bronx Zoo or Brooklyn Zoo. And they got a tire blew, the giant tank fell off the truck, the sharks went everywhere on the highway. And SeaWorld responded within like a half hour, and they like rescued the sharks off the road and took them to the park till they were able to transport them. That's good. That's good.
Who hasn't been involved in a shark spill?
Exactly. It happens all the time here in Florida. Got another shark on the highway.
God damn it. Get out the broom.
So, yeah. So she wasn't in Jaws 3D, depending how you want to call it. And but she was in Jaws Revenge, which was... epically, horribly awesome. Can it be all those things? I think it can be. A lot of people shit on everything from 3 on. I like it all. Maybe I'm just too easy, but Jaws Revenge wasn't that bad. Takes place in the Bahamas, totally different location.
There can be an appreciation towards something that's crappy or maybe even campy. Like, you can always have a good appreciation for something that's part of a line that you already love.
Exactly.
But then may not be up to quality.
Yeah, I mean, it's not as good as Jaws, but you know what? It's another Jaws movie. I'll take it. Same thing with Lost World. It wasn't as good as the first Jurassic Park, but it was still a damn good movie. Also Spielberg.
Should have just been a Spielberg freaking podcast series and stretch us 10 years.
Oh, and also Jaws Revenge, you had Michael Caine in it, which, I mean, what is Michael Caine in that wasn't good?
Listen, that gets 2 thumbs up for me just
Exactly.
based on that.
That's awesome. So anyway, back to Jaws. Side tangent there.
Digress a little bit.
So we talked earlier, John Williams did the music, which he did a lot of Spielberg's music, obviously. And the movie starts off with classic John Williams, but it also starts off with a scene with a girl in the water, naked, which makes it
buddy.
Everything's better naked. Pretty graphic scene, like, considering you don't see the shark, you don't see blood. It's still a scene that gave a lot of people nightmares first time they saw it. You know how they did that scene?
They strapped the camera to their pervert?
No. They put the girl in a rig, and she was out in the water, and then they had pulley systems and ropes, and dudes on the shore would pull back and forth. And I believe Spielberg actually did it initially. Like, he was the one pulling on one end. They were going to do a mechanical rig, and the girl's like, no, I'm not going to let some machine like rip me back and forth.
Hell no.
But honestly, they pulled it off, and it looks freaking awesome. Like, it totally looks like she's getting pulled around by a shark. Great way to start a movie, though. You don't see the shark till like maybe a half hour, maybe longer into the movie, and even then you see like a fin. You don't even see Jaws, like the full Jaws. So,
and that's part of like the beauty of the horror of it.
Exactly. Get scared what you don't see. And then when they weren't using the mechanical shark, they did use some scenes that had real sharks in it. If you look at it now, you're obviously like, oh, that's stock footage of a shark. That's not Jaws. But back then, it was a little easier to get away with it. But what he did was he recruited a couple from Australia, Ron and Valerie Taylor, who were famous shark researchers and
solid people, those Taylors.
Yeah. So they did some shooting with the shark. Their sharks are like 14 feet long, though. The average great white was about 14 feet. So they made a smaller cage instead of the cage that Richard Dreyfuss gets in. And they put that in the water, and they got a little person. And they put him in there. They're like, okay, this will look right. So it started looking okay. The guy that was in charge of the scuba suit kind of forgot something, though. He forgot that even though it's a little person, they still breathe the same amount of air that big people do. So his air tank, instead of having a half hour of air in it, had about 8 minutes of air in it.
Oh, jeez.
And they had to pull him up right away and save him before he died. But beyond that, they also put the cage in empty, maybe I think while they were getting him rigged up or something, and a shark came along and just started devouring the cage, just like destroying it, chewing it, hitting it, like just destroy this cage. And they got it all on film. Freaking awesome. The only thing is there was nobody in the cage. So Hooper's supposed to, in the end of the movie, he actually gets out of the cage. He goes down to like a little reef area and then comes up at the end. That wasn't the original ending. He was supposed to die in the original version of the script. But that footage was so good, Spielberg liked it so much, he's like, I'm going to rewrite the ending. And then you see him escape the cage. Shark destroys it. He comes back up. Almost everybody lives happily ever after, except for Quinn.
Wow. You don't know if he's happy or not.
He might be. And that all happens, of course, on the Orca out at sea. That was what I was mentioning earlier about, I can't remember if we were recording it or not, when I was mentioning how a lot of times they were filming, a sailboat would come in a shot. He really didn't want sailboats in the shot, especially on the Orca shots, because he wanted you to feel isolated. Even though you're out in the open sea,
yeah,
there wasn't supposed to be anybody else. Yeah, when they were filming, shore was just behind them, but you didn't see that. That was beyond the fourth wall. So a sailboat would come in, and sailboats go slow. So they would wait 30 minutes for that to go by.
Yeah, you touched briefly on that when we were talking about the duration that the film actually took.
Exactly. So yeah, so this is that kind of scene there where, everything's going wrong. They had two Orcas, like I said. The one, which had all the equipment, the cameras, everything on it, actually began to sink at one point. I shouldn't even say it began to sink. It sunk. And the cameras got wet, got in the water. They were able to rush the footage to New York, and they were able to save it. all kinds of freaking disasters. But something that really brought the movie together, in a lot of the interviews you'll hear him say it, was Quinn's speech about the Indianapolis, which is pretty freaking awesome. So up to that point, a lot of Americans or anybody had not heard that story about the USS Indianapolis. Um, for those who don't know what we're talking about, it was a World War II vessel that was carrying the bomb and going to deliver the bomb. And they succeeded in that. On the way back, they got hit by a Japanese torpedo. Ship went down. I believe about 300 men were in the water, and the sharks started coming. I think only about 100, 150 of them survived. It was classified. Nobody knew they were out there, so nobody was coming to rescue them. And the story stayed classified for years after as well. And the story finally was released, but it didn't get big publicity because the media wasn't the way it is now. So a lot of people heard that story for the very first time through Jaws. In fact, a lot of guys on the Indianapolis didn't know it was going to be in the movie, and people saw it or they saw it, and that's how they found out that the story was out there. And most of the guys that they interview nowadays are very grateful for him for giving that speech and the way he presented it, because that's telling their story, which is that's part of American history. Now, the first time he tried to give that story, he was drunk. There's a scene where they are drinking, and he's like, "Hey, Steven, can I just drink while we're doing this? It'll be more accurate." Well, they got plastered. He couldn't deliver it. It was shit. So he sobered up. He felt bad. He's like, "Let me do it again." The next day, he nailed it one take. And that's a pretty long, pretty awesome speech. But even Spielberg says that was the day that movie, it felt real, ragtag going up to that point. Once that speech was delivered, it felt like this movie was going to be, something.
That it was.
Yeah. So, I mean, I count that as, I was going to go over some of the quotes of the movie. I count that as a quote, even though it's a whole long soliloquy. But I think one of the most famous ones in the movie is, "I think you're going to need a bigger boat."
Yeah, that's definitely.
Brody's, which is actually followed up by a really funny line before that, when they're telling him to keep chumming. He's like, "Keep chumming. You keep chumming. Why don't you come down here and chum some of this shit?" And then the shark comes up, the jaws open up, and then he backs up into the galley, and he delivers a line. "I think you're going to need a bigger boat." Probably the most famous line in the movie. Wasn't in the script. That was all ad-libbed. Yeah, all improv. Which, that happens a lot in Spielberg movies. Like in Raiders of the Lost Ark, the guy with the sword, they get shot, does all that sword, acrobatics, and then Indy just shoots him.
Yeah.
That was improv. That wasn't meant to be there. So sometimes you get those happy accidents. Another one of my favorite quotes is the guy that goes, "Oh, what?" I love it. I use that all the time.
It should be your ringtone.
It should be. I also like when Dreyfus is first coming to town, and he asks the guys, you guys are all going out there. You're not going to make it out there in that boat. And they're like, whatever. He goes, "Well, can you point me in the direction of a good restaurant?" And he points to the end of the dock. He goes, "Yeah, just keep walking that way." Like he's going to walk off. And then he just giggles like, "They're all going to die." So those are the ones I like. How about you? Got any quotes?
I mean, you touched on all the ones I can remember, to tell you the truth. I mean, I really appreciate the film for what it is, because it's a great film. It's an important film. But I couldn't tell you the last time I watched it all the way through.
Well, there you go. You got a project now.
It has been a long time. But, it's funny because I can remember where I was, and I was, when I was watching it for the first time. I was very young, and just being not so much scared, but I could only imagine I was looking at the TV with my mouth wide open, just being like, "Holy shit, what's going on?" And I watch it as older. When you get older, and you could pick up on some of the more adult things that you can comprehend, and it's just the lines that everybody remember.
Yeah, it's being scary too. It's some of the scariest stuff didn't even have to do with the shark. Like when that head rolls out of the boat.
Yeah.
The fake rubber head.
Yeah.
The music hits it just right. The scene hits it just right. And people, I still jump sometimes if I don't remember that. The exact second that it's coming. I know it's coming, but sometimes it hits me a little off guard.
Well, it's good. The movie's paced just slow enough to kind of lull you into a false sense of security when you're watching it.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I mean, especially the way they show the town and everything.
Yeah, and then it'll hit you.
Yeah, definitely. I think the second one does a good job of that as well. Um, I'll leave it at that with the second one.
Hey, listen,
third,
in a
third
few
and
years,
fourth didn't really do that.
in a few years when those movies turn 40, then we can talk about them.
Very good. Well, I think that's all I have on Jaws. You have any closing thoughts?
As far as Jaws is concerned, for me, it's hard to believe that it's been 40 years. But just 1975. Can you imagine building, like you were talking about earlier, the mechanics and all that stuff that went into a shark? Nowadays, you tell somebody to do it, yeah, no problem. But 40 years ago,
Nowadays they wouldn't even do it. They would just CGI it.
yeah,
Which is
yeah.
a shame.
But it blows my mind right now to think back that they did that, and that's just one of the more impressive things from that movie for me.
Yeah, I think glad it too. There's we're talking 5 years after, well, 6 years after man first landed on the moon, and I think there was a different mentality in the country. Then it was like, you know what, we can do anything, you know.
Yeah.
Actually, at that point, well, I think up to a year before that, we were still putting people up on the moon. So it was like, yeah, why not? We could totally make a mechanical shark and put it in the ocean.
Yeah, they
and
didn't
put
even
a crew in the
Yeah.
ocean.
And they didn't even half-ass it. They're like, oh yeah, I could build an 8-foot shark, but let's make a 25-foot one.
Yeah, I think it's a
Like,
different mentality just across the nation as a whole, and it definitely leaked over into the movie industry.
yeah, I just think that's a really cool thing that might get overlooked a little bit when it comes to people thinking about Jaws.
Yeah, definitely.
And the musical score. That's the other thing I take from the movie.
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, it was a huge hit. It was one of the first movies to really capitalize on using merchandise sales to help the movie out. Lots of, I mean, everything from lunchboxes to
Oh yeah.
books, T-shirts. I mean, that and Star Wars really are the two movies that kicked that whole industry off. The whole movie.
And you still see the stuff around when you go into like vintage shops and stuff.
Absolutely. There's always new stuff coming out. In fact, there's an artist recently that made the stretching portraits from the Haunted Mansion, but he made them with Jaws characters.
Oh, that's
really
funny.
Yeah, you can totally check that out online. They're really cool. Maybe I'll put them up on the screen here. And I mean, it's a popular film. It's actually right now it's ranked number 48 on the AFI's top 100 movies.
Nice.
Which is, by all accounts, that's the definitive list to go by. I'm kind of surprised it's not a little higher, but I mean,
you know what?
It's still pretty hokey.
Yeah, but it may make it higher on Disco Hollywood's top 100 list. You never know.
Of movies that we reviewed, it'll be number 1 for a while.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's on the top right now.
It's also on the bottom, but
it's also in the middle.
It's a sliding scale. Yeah, it's a great movie. It's a movie I put on, once or twice a year even to watch. Or if it's on TV, I'll always, just keep watching.
Yeah, I've never been flipping through the channels and not stopped and watched that scene till a commercial.
Yeah.
You know, I've never not stopped and watched a part of Jaws, and I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Very few movies are like that.
They had I think on the 30th anniversary there was a documentary that was really good, but also definitely check out the Shark is Still Working. It's an excellent documentary. It's not made by Universal or anything. It was an independent documentary.
I might have seen bits and parts of that.
Really good.
Some of the things you were saying were a little familiar to me.
Yeah. Yeah, most of my facts, how are you gonna say it? They can confirm my facts because I think they hit on a lot more even than I covered here. Probably 3-4 times more information in that.
They have a little bigger budget too.
Probably.
Oh, we can't.
I googled the shit out of this movie.
And we can't leave out the most important thing that come from Jaws, the movie, and that is the original Xbox video game Jaws.
Oh yes, there's actually I was gonna mention that there's an NES Jaws game that I believe might need to be a NES Tales in the next few.
You never know. It is Shark Week.
Yes. Yeah, but surprisingly, I'm glad you brought that up. There weren't a lot of Jaws video games. There was Jaws Unleashed, which was on original Xbox. There was the NES game. There's a really kind of funky PC game, I think probably back in the 80s. And weird to say, but if you actually want a Jaws movie experience in a game, you have to get a game called Universal Studios Theme Park Adventure for the GameCube.
I think I've heard of that.
Yes, where you get to ride the movies and I guess play the movies at Universal. But it's got a scene where you're on the orca and you have to drop the barrels and try and get the shark. And of all the Jaws games, that's the only one that really incorporates anything from the movie into it. So, but Jaws Unleashed is fun if you don't get seasick.
Take a motion sickness pill.
Yeah.
Because it'll mess you up.
It's not backwards compatible on the 360, so you do have to have it on original Xbox. It may have come out on PC. Let me look that up while we're chatting here. Actually, PlayStation 2, Xbox, and Windows. So you have three ways to play. THQ published it. It's a cool game, but you do play through the eyes of a shark.
And you literally just thrash about.
You thrash crazily.
My
favorite part is actually the beginning when you're in the science lab. I don't know what you want to call it. But you have to grab a scientist who has a key card, drag him across the tank to the other side, fling him to the key access panel so he opens the door, and then you have to jump through the door into another tank. It's video gaming at its best.
It is. And I think a reason why the Jaws video games may not have taken off as well as they thought or would want to because of the fear factor in Jaws was the maniacal, anticipation, not so much the thrashing. The thrashing didn't hurt, but I thought it was all about anticipation. You kind of lose that.
Here's my call out. Telltale, who's doing all their episodic games. They did Jurassic Park. An
episodic Jaws game.
They did Jurassic Park so damn good. Do Jaws. It would be great. You could play as Brody. You don't have to play as a shark. You won't get sick. Actually, what they do, a lot of times they split who you play. So you can play as Brody, you can play as Quinn, Hooper, just kind of switch it all up. That'd be an awesome game.
That would be awesome.
They can pull it off.
I think you need to sell that pitch to Telltale.
Yeah, and they can get a better rating than a 53%, which Jaws Unleashed got. So, also they got a 7.4, and that was from IGN, who also called it Grand Shark Auto at the time. So IGN was actually behind the Jaws games.
Well, IGN's so clever.
They were pro Jaws.
10 out of 10 IGN.
Back in, what was it, 19... Actually, 2000... Wow, it was 2006. Ugh. That wasn't that long ago, and that game was not that good.
That was... Yeah. Oops.
Yeah, whatever. It's probably on Steam. Go check it out. It's probably $1.
They pay you $1 to play it. It's interesting.
And you know what? Actually, it's not on my list here, but there was a Jaws game for your tablet and phone. I forget what it was called.
Huh.
It was Jaws. It was kind of cool. It was side-scrollery, and you went around, you had to tap on him to, chomp on boats and people swimming.
I don't know if side-scrollery is a word.
It was cool. Good game. Try it. Alright, man, that's all I got.
You got anything? Yeah, I'll get us out of here. Well, that's going to do it for our first podcast. I hope you guys really enjoyed listening to it as much as we enjoyed making it for you. We had a blast just shooting the shit and getting off topic. We'd really like to hear from you guys, so feel free to drop a line in the comment. Put a comment below. You like us, you don't like us, you want us to cover another subject. Just let us know, and we'll do our best to get around to it. And if you guys would subscribe, that would be great as well. And that way you guys can get the latest and greatest from Disco Hollywood as soon as it hits the interwebs. And that's just about going to do it from us. I'm Mitch.
And Art.
Enjoy the rest of Shark Week and stay out of the water. Later.